Do you know about the history of the ancient Chinese pottery? Well, let me tell you.
Let's find out. We're here at the Met and about to go into the Asian art wing. World is our oyster, so let's get going.
Then I'll ask, what have we done under the sun?
Look at the map of China. There is the Yellow River and the Yangtze River here, and that divides China in the northern and the southern part. The northern part, from a ceramics perspective, always had more earthenware, more stoneware, did not have access to the materials that you use for white porcelain that has translucency. That you would see in the southern part of China. So you typically can just look at the quality of the actual material and then figure out where it came from.
If you look at the map of China, there's the Yellow River and the Yangtze River, and they split up China. If you look at the pottery from this portion of China, it's going to be more painted pottery and uses more jade, while pottery from over here is going to be more black and gray pottery.
The earliest found pottery from China was from the Neolithic period, and here you see an example of the Yellow River culture that you saw, where you see the distinctive swirls that you find all over, and the black or red pigments that are characteristic. Whereas over here, you see the eastern part of China where there's no swirls, and there are impressions on the vase. And
this is an early example of earthenware from the Han Dynasty, and the sculpture symbolizes the wish for the continuation of life in the tomb, as these two figures are playing a classic gambling game that uses dice, counters, and a marked board. And this game is called Liu. So there are three types of Chinese pottery. So there's earthenware, stoneware, and porcelain. The earthenware is more like natural and less glazed. The stoneware has more of like a shiny, smooth feel, and the porcelain is like completely smooth. So if it's shiny, you could decipher whether it's stoneware or porcelain.
recap. Earthenware is a low temperature fired material that is not watertight and chips easily, whereas the high fired stoneware or porcelain does not chip easily and is watertight.
Each culture has different terminologies for the different types of ceramics. In our culture, we say earthenware, stoneware, and porcelain. Back then, they used to call it high temperature and low temperature.
This vase is stoneware because it is a little bit matte but still shiny. However, if we look to the left of it, we see a piece that's also white and shiny, but this one is porcelain because it's smoother and it's more clean and fresh, while the stoneware is more earthy. Due to the red color of these vases, people might get misconceived and think that it's earthenware, but actually it's just porcelain dyed red. So, as we can see, this bowl here, it's smooth but not completely shiny. So we can think that it's stoneware. Also, for example, here, it has the same smooth but not necessarily shiny texture. On porcelain, one of the most common things is the blue and white designs painted on underneath the glaze. The cool thing about blue glaze is that when you first paint it on, it's black color, and once you put the translucent overall glaze over it, it becomes this brilliant blue color you see in the jar here. And for example, on this bowl, we can see how translucent the glaze is, so that we can infer that it's porcelain.
So the five claws of the dragon indicate that this bowl is for use on the emperor's court. And in general, the porcelain in China could be divided into porcelain that is used for emperor's court and with porcelain that is not for use for the emperor's court. So this is not for the emperor himself, though, indicated by the color. The green means that it's for a lower ranking person in the court. These kind of large vases were typically commissioned for the imperial court. This is from the Ming Dynasty, and the inscription on the bottom says that it was commissioned for an auxiliary palace in the southwest of China, so not for the main palace.
In this bowl, we see joined colors called du chai. It means the joining of multiple colors, and it shows a freer relationship between the cobalt blue and the other colors seen in the picture that are all jewel colors. Also in this bowl, we see the dragon with the 5 claws, which symbolizes the emperor, and then we also see the phoenix, which is a symbol for the empress.
This was identified as a ludwa, which is a unicorn that speaks multiple languages when the right ruler comes to the throne. So this was a very playful use of ceramics.
This piece of earthenware can be identified by its texture, which is not shiny, and its impressed and carved decoration. It was used to store food and as a burial good to replace a more expensive item. Although this piece has a glaze over it, it is still earthenware. Not all earthenware pieces are matte and dull. This one is still earthenware and decorated with under an amber glaze. The spread of porcelain throughout the world is evidence of the transoceanic trade that linked China, Japan, Southeastern Asia, and the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and South and North America in the 17th and 18th centuries. However, this changed eating habits in the Western world. This vase is brightly colored with lead glazes that are 3 glazes called sanchai. As you can see, the shape doesn't match the traditional Chinese shapes that we've looked at before, but instead it's inspired by the ancient Iranian artwork that was done and just proves the impact of trade among the art. This vase in particular was used for funerary services.
This is an example of how Chinese pottery was used in day-to-day life. That was a lot of history. We'll see you back at the house.
So now you can really identify Chinese pottery and can put it in its cultural context.
Aren't those the bowls we got from IKEA?
Thank you for watching!